This is Centenary College's policy on equality.
Affirmative action.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try.
The contents of this video will argue in favor of Centenary College admission policy that based on a single set of standards. In addition, we will argue in favor of speech codes. In creating a single admission standard, this preferential treatment that is shown in the affirmative action policy will not be practiced at Centenary College. We've assessed the costs and benefits of promoting affirmative action and concluded that the practice creates more harm than good for the students here. The content of our video will depict these costs and benefits. Within our devised policy, we have defined what is considered hate speech and actions we will take to diminish it to the best of our ability. Again, we are speaking from a democratic standpoint, with the ultimate goal to produce equality on our campus. Our argument will reflect the ideas of Alice K. Ma, a Harvard Magazine author, that when she said that total free speech is impossible unless each individual has opportunity to speak. Hate speech is intended to suppress equality among different groups. We will show how the loss of free speech is a minute cost for avoiding the negative effects of hate speech. We will show how our policy counters the synthetic equality created by affirmative action. We will be taking a consequentialist viewpoint on the following policies.
So the ultimate goal of Centenary's admissions policy is to create an environment at the college that reflects the democratic ideals that act as the core of life in the United States, pure equality. So the admission policy at Centenary College is based on a single standard. This means that all applicants are evaluated based on the same aspects and qualifications and to the same degree, regardless of race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, religion, gender, or disability. So in order to admit a student and be fully confident in their ability to succeed at Centenary, we will issue an aptitude test as part of the application process. More so than the SAT or the ACT or any other standardized test, this aptitude test will assess a student's ability to learn as opposed to what they have been taught in the past. We feel that this will even out the playing field more with students who perhaps did not have the privilege of going to a private school or had to go to an underfunded public school. The idea of the single standard is put in place to counter two possible consequences. The first is that a student meeting the merit standards at Centenary does not get admitted because they were judged on a harder scale than the applicant belonging to a minority. This is something that is promoted by affirmative action in the sense that racial preference is put above merit in some instances. The second is a possible inequality a student belonging to a minority may feel when they are faced with a curriculum statistically outside their ability. This puts the admitted student at a disadvantage academically, and thus countering any attempted equality. So what we have found here is that affirmative action is racial profiling, thinking that a minority couldn't get into a school of their choice simply because they are a minority. Our policy is unadulterated equality. There is no discrimination based on religion, gender, race, sexual orientation, disability, and all discernment is based on intellect, skill, and character, especially character. We feel as if the character aspect of the application process will be the part of the admissions that will bring in the greatest amount of diversity.
Centenary's speech code could start with the definition of banned behaviour. Discriminatory harassment can include any conduct, oral, written, graphic or physical, directed against any person or group of people because of their race, colour, national origin, religion, sex, age, disability, and that which has an effect of creating an offensive or hostile environment for the person. The codes are primarily to create a productive learning environment on the campus. Hate speech often intends to provoke violence. Hate speech codes emphasise the need to support convictions with facts and reasoning while protecting the rights of potential victims. We need to clearly distinguish the line between speech that actually causes harm to people and speech which is just ignorant. At Centenary, we could have certain required seminars that students will have to go to which will be on the topic of hate speech. In these seminars, students could learn about the problems with hate speech, how to act if they feel under any threat of hate speech, and also to expand their knowledge on the current issues related to the topic. The seminars could change slightly every year to allow for more current ideas with the topic. At Centenary, if someone is accused of hate speech, their case could be put in front of the Equality Committee. This is a panel of students who decide whether or not the case is worthy of punishment or if it is just simply ignorance. The punishment if someone is found guilty of hate speech would be that they have to participate in a rehabilitation process where they need to go to at least 3 seminars on hate speech, which are not compulsory, and they also need to write a letter of apology to the person.
Naturally, there are supporters of affirmative action who argue that it is the only way to promote racial diversity in higher education and repay for the sufferings of minorities in the past. However, this reverse discrimination does more harm than it helps. It stereotypes minorities as a whole as inferior and needing help to succeed in life. This devaluation of their knowledge and achievement is a hidden subliminal racist message. The safety that affirmative action provides for minorities also reduces the incentive to learn and try hard by the minorities. Ultimately, this lowers the standards of our society, because students are less motivated to better the lives for themselves. They rely upon and take advantage of affirmative action to get them acceptance into a good college and a good job later in life, instead of challenging students to rise above the expectations. Students will casually ride on the expectations. There are other methods of racial diversity. For example, in Texas, students are automatically admitted to the University of Texas if they stand in the top 8% of their high school. Different regions of Texas have different racial compositions, so this policy allows the smartest students of all these regions to be admitted. This policy, based on intelligence, accomplishes diversity while still retaining a high standardized test score average. This is just one of the many policies that work better than affirmative action. But since Centenary is a small liberal arts college, the percentage-based admission would not work. Equally, there is as much debate over hate speech as there are for affirmative action. The main argument against speech codes are that they violate the First Amendment of the freedom of speech, but that law applies only to public areas. At a private university, those laws do not apply and can be overridden by speech codes. Originally, freedom of speech was set to facilitate the flow and exchange of ideas and thoughts, but this freedom has been abused. Hateful words silence and shock the intended audience instead of promoting communication. Words spoken with that type of intention are not protected by the law and should be punished because they only encourage negative and explosive responses that are harmful to society. Those are the top 2 reasons for those that stand for speech codes, and they both have been logically refuted and for a better alternative. For a better learning environment in society, speech codes must be set and enforced. At a private institution such as Centenary, we should create speech codes to inhibit hateful communication.
In closing, we have qualms with affirmative action and abusive speech. And in our presentation, we have outlined 2 alternative policies to promote a safe, equality-rich learning environment here at Centenary College. Every Centenary student has earned the right to admission based on skill and intellect. And every one of those students at Centenary deserves to be themselves without fear of intimidation by hateful speech. Thank you so much.